So once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the musings of the Knights of Rizal with the Know Your Knights episode. Today we have a very enthusiastic member of the Knights of Rizal. Uh, he is Sir Arvin, and as you know, the purpose of the Know Your Knights is basically just to learn about our fellow knights around the world. We see their postings on Facebook. We celebrate with them. We comment with them on Facebook and other media outlets. We see their faces and we see their posting. But sometimes we just want to get to know them a little bit better. So maybe if we see them face to face, we'll have a point of conversation. Can you tell us about a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Arvin Paulo Cortez. By profession, I'm a lawyer. I'm 26 years old. I work with Hangada Concepcion, Regala, and Cruz Law Offices as an associate. So that's ACRA Law. Um, I graduated from the Ateneo de Manila University School of Law back in 2019. I was the Foundation for Liberty and Prosperity Scholarship Awardees for years 2018 and 2019, 2017 to 2018 rather. Um, the FLP is actually a prestigious scholarship award that they only give that to the top 20 law students of the top 20 law schools in the country. And I'm also the current president right now of the FLP Scholar Society. And back and then during those times, I was working with the Supreme Court of the Philippines as a consultant of the Senate Electoral Tribunal with Associate Justice Arturo Brion, and uh, by God's grace, I was able to graduate from the law school with exemplary honors. I was top 19 in my class, and I also got the silver medal for academic excellence. So those are my academic citations.
Can you tell me how you found out about the Knights of Rizal?
Uh, I was in fact invited by my uncle to join the Knights of Rizal. And at first, I didn't know much about the organization. I didn't know even that it was a brotherhood, actually, a brotherhood of those who believe in the ideals of Rizal. I just see them and their markers around my hometown in Naga City. There's actually a marker by the Knights of Rizal upon entering the Naga City proper. Uh, like any organization that I enter, which actually is only a few, which are only few, if I can disclose, I would actually study first the history and the mission and the goals of the organization. And I learned that the Knights of Rizal is the only chivalric order recognized by the Philippines by law under Republic Act number 646.
Sir Arvin, that's definitely a very glaring citation of all your accomplishments, and I can only see at 27 years old there'll be a lot more, and we celebrate with you. Now, sir, can I ask you why why did you choose the Knights of Rizal to be a part of? What impressed you about the Knights of Rizal? I know you kind of touched on it. If you can elaborate on the being a lawyer on the 646 Republic Act 646 and what's its implication that inspired you?
Actually, what inspired me to become a knight is not actually the legal side, but more of my personal like affection or my personal likeness of Rizal's works. I always believe, even back when I was in college, because as you all know, in the Philippines, Rizal is actually a mandatory course. And back in the University of the Philippines, Diliman, my professor took a different approach of Rizal as we usually, as mo, uh, compared to how it's usually conducted here, the Rizal course. And I remember he presented Rizal not as a saint or not as a some sort of a national hero, but rather a person who has very bright ideas for his country, a person full of contradictions, such as you and I, a normal person, perhaps one of the best of his own generation, not the best of his race, but at the end of the day, he's a human being. And despite his being a human being, uh, we see we see his ideas transcending his humanity, and that's what struck me back in college. That even until while I was studying law, and now that I am a lawyer, I still continue to hold on to, and I always believe that the works of Rizal are the pathways to the success of our nation, even until now. The problem with our country, I'm sorry if this would be delving into politics, but to a certain extent, but for me, the problem with our country is that our leaders maybe are not conversant of Rizal or of his works, and that's why we throw ourselves, or we actually are exposed to those things that Rizal has warned us. And that's what struck me, and that's what impelled me to join the Knights of Rizal, because I believe that together with the people who believe in the ideals of Rizal, that we can nurture this shared understanding, shared devotion to the works of Rizal, so that at the end of the day, we can propagate his ideas not only to the Filipino people, but around the world. As you all know, that no idea is actually um, territorial in character. But beyond interest, you have to learn how to actualize that. You have to you have to operationalize your devotion, your ideas about Rizal. And that's why I joined the Knights of Rizal. But at the end of the day, being a member of or being a Knight of Rizal means that you have to uphold the values of Rizal daily, if not, yeah, not daily, yeah. And you have to be a light bearer to others. Aside from that, connecting that with Republic Act 646 as the only state recognized chivalry order of the country, um, the awards, the decorations that we receive as a member, as a Knight of Rizal, is actually recognized by the Philippine government. And actually, for me, every recognition that we receive from the government is actually a responsibility more than an honor given to a person.
How does the Knights of Rizal sit with the whole Rizalian thinking, the whole Rizalian movement in the Philippines?
As we all know, that's actually a very good question. And as we all know, President Manuel L. Quezon and most of our presidents are members of the Knights of Rizal. And the original intention of the Knights of Rizal is not only to propagate the ideals of Rizal, but to advocate for the independence of the Philippines, especially during the nascent years of the organization. So right now, I think that our role, our duty as Knights of Rizal is to continue to preserve the independence that we have won, and not only that, but also to enable others to become adherents or followers of liberty. The Knights of Rizal is actually an organization that should actually actively advocate for the maintenance of our independence, and our and the institutions which which came from that independence and the liberties of our people.
In Rizal's works as a writer, where he expresses ideas, do you have any favorite or a writing that from Rizal that moved you?
Um, One of the activities that we have in KOR is actually studying the works of Rizal. And I was asked to be a speaker one time, and the book that I chose was Filipinas Dentro 100 Años, or Philippines 100 Years Henceforth. And that's my favorite. Actually, that's my favorite work of Rizal because it actually provides the roadmap of the Philippines not only 100 years henceforth from the time he wrote the article, but even until now. And to put it more concretely, Rizal advocated for I think, one of the most uh, controversial topics, even until today, is federalism. And it's actually in the Filipinas Dentro de 100 Años that Rizal advocated for a federalist framework. Now, I'm not talking about a specific federalist framework advocated by a political group, but it is just a mere recognition that similar to the ideas of the founding fathers of the United States, um, every Filipino has the natural right to actually for self-actualization. Now, of course, that's a long debate on how Rizal actually saw or what kind of federal system should we adopt. But again, even if we discount or even if we do not adopt his federalist views, we can see in that work that Rizal always had faith in the Filipino as an individual and his capacity to surpass himself.
Now, if you, with all these ideas about uh, how to progress from one point to the other, the Knights of Rizal, in your view, which stakeholders should the Knights of Rizal work or concentrate with to uh, make all these ideas turn into fruition, especially uh, autonomy of the mind, self-respect, uh, and dignity? Which stakeholders to you is the most effective way to enliven all these ideas?
I think the most relevant stakeholder which the Knights of Rizal should actively engage with, is the youth. In fact, I was surprised when I joined the organization and I found out that a lot of our brothers are actually already in their older in their senior ages, and it's really very hard to find a fellow knight of Rizal or a fellow knight who is actually of the same age, the same millennial generation. And I think that is something, or that is the sector which the Knights of Rizal should actively engage with, not only because Rizal and also our heroes who in their prime of their lives shed their lives for our country's cause, at a time when they were still uh, very young, they were around my age, but most importantly because it's the youth who inevitably will be the bearers, or who will actually have the potential to put into actualization results, ideas. So that for me, that's the sector that we should focus on, the youth, and more than just conducting oratorical contests, writing contests, and other. These are noble initiatives, But I think we should give a more active role for the youth in the order of the Knights of Rizal so that they can feel, or not just more than feel, but they can actually participate in the work of propagating Rizal's ideals, not only to their fellow youth, but in their own communities. Because as we all know, it's the youth who are actually most active in the community. So they are the most effective agents of change.
Now, in 2014, there was a campaign, just like Rizal, uh, a mass media campaign, giving light to the idea that mass media, social media, should be used also as a tool to to that end, to the end of being just like Rizal. To you, what do you think is the future of social media in this effort?
Well, I think social media will still play, in fact, it continues to play a very crucial role in propagating Rizal's ideas. And we have to continuously tap the young minds and also the youth arm of the Knights of Rizal in trying to find more interesting ways in trying to propagate Rizal's ideals, and not just the traditional way of conveying or commemorating Rizal. Of course, these are very important. These are actually what we call as the divine, trying to divine, to accord divinity to Rizal by all the parades and all the commemorations that we have to Rizal. But most importantly, we have to make it more relevant to the ordinary Filipino, and that will only come in through the social media, through mass media, and of course through a renewed effort to study. I think for me, we have to revisit how we study Rizal in our schools.
Now, in recent memory, the Knights of Rizal was involved in legal procedure uh, in the Terror de Manila. What do you think worked with the Knight of Rizal? What was the main points that you supported personally
Well,
in this proceeding?
first and foremost, I would like to disclose that uh, actually it's my firm who actually was the counsel of record of Torre de Manila in that case. But I was not yet connected with the firm at that time. The issue was very basic. Whether or not uh, demolition or the stopping of the construction works in the Torre de Manila constitutes as taking within the purview of expropriation. And as we all know, expropriation is uh, should have just compensation. And that's how the court approached that topic, as well as the issue on uh, the binding character of the guidelines of the Vienna. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a Vienna Convention guidelines purportedly violated by Torre de Manila by constructing that building. Why did the city government in the first instance allow the construction to happen? That's where all the evil started. If the city government at that time had stopped the construction, had in fact prevented the developer from pursuing their plans even before they started the building, then then the case would not have gone up to the Supreme Court. Then there would have been no case to begin with. Personally, I do not agree in the construction of the Torre de Manila. I think it's obnoxious. I think it's actually a public nuisance. But uh, we have to balance, again, we have to balance our own preferences, the general welfare with the liberties of the with the private liberties or the the personal liberties of the people involved. I think at the end of the day, it's a matter of it's actually a convergence of corruption, accidents of history, and perhaps the greatest irony of all is that we actually sacrifice or desecrate the sacred grounds of Bagong Bayan of Luneta because of all these uh, all these things that are unfortunately going on even until now in this country.
It's already constructed, and the Supreme Court, the justice system, has already made its decision. In your mind, outside being a lawyer now, being a Knights of Rizal, how do you find convergence of these two opposing views as far as the Torre de Manila is concerned?
Well, I think
Is there a happy medium outside the legal mind as
yeah,
an ordinary person?
there's actually a middle way of doing this, and the middle way is we, of course, it's an expensive way, and I don't think it is realistic. But maybe if I'm just wondering, maybe the Supreme Court decision actually gave the solution for perhaps organizations such as us, the Knights of Rizal, on moving forward. We can perhaps maybe someday expropriate buy the building itself or uh, urge the government to buy that piece of land through expropriation. Of course, that will be very expensive. I think, how do we cast a middle way? So perhaps aside from outrightly expropriating the land, we should actually try our best not to allow this to ever happen again. I think that's the best thing that we can do. Those are just my 2 cents. Sorry.
Sure. Now,
Yeah.
let me give you some of my 2 cents, if you don't mind. You see, there should be a confluence of all these stakeholders, those who love heritage and history, and those who are in the business sector. And as you mentioned earlier, Rizal would have, uh, I'd say, sided with the private enterprise because of his philosophy in uh, self-determination, I guess, as opposed to government intervention. A, a Since it's already there, and I know that when Rizal was in Bagumbayan was shot, he turned around to face the squad, the firing squad. Um, my idea was, why not one, the main problem of an ordinary Philippine history loving person, an ordinary mass, the masses, is that when they take pictures, it's there. And that's not how it should be, and that's not how it was historically. My idea was to turn instead of Rizal facing the Manila Bay, we turn Rizal uh, 360 uh, or 180, I should say. We
Yeah,
turn
180.
his facade 180. So, for the purposes of picture and everything, it's not in the way. We can do that. Obviously, it's going to cost money, but we can do that by having this private sector or even the government have a tax incentive for people who wish to pursue commercial development in the area or business improvements in the area, that where they have a there's a tax, heritage tax, for instance.